What's up and welcome back to the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes and I'm joined by one of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller.
Tim, I've been trying to get you on the horn all day long, but you're doing this, you're doing that. I got 3 words for you. Reggie Fils-Aimé. You know this man?
Fils-Aimé? Yeah.
Yeah, you ever heard of him?
I've heard of him.
Pizza Hut, Nintendo, you ever heard of this guy?
Yeah.
GameStop.
He's coming to the Kind of Funny Gamescast. I booked him for you.
Whoa! What?
Whoa!
For you, buddy. He's coming.
Really?
That's right.
Holy shit. All
This isn't
day,
an
Greg's
April
been-
Fool's joke?
Yeah, I'm waiting for it.
This is
It's
not
3
April
days
Fool's
past April
joke.
Fools.
Reggie
been
is coming
slacking
to
me
the
all
Kind of
day,
Funny Gamescast.
Hey, can we get on? Can I get a call? Can I call you? Whatever. And I thought you wanted me to go on stream and talk about WrestleMania, which I really wanted to do, but I didn't have the time. I was like bouncing around. I was like, Greg, I had this 30 minutes. You did hit me up during that 30 minutes. I didn't expect this to be one of the.
I was busy too. I had my own things. I'm sorry.
Of course. This is awesome. Holy shit.
Don't worry about it.
Wow.
Well, that's exciting stuff. Continuing along, we have the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
I thought you were going to say, it's a me, Reggie. Because you said a me, Reggie Fils-Aimé. What was that all about?
I thought he was doing something there too. Yeah.
Doesn't even know his name, this guy.
Really don't. I'm a PlayStation guy. I never had to talk to him. Saw him once at an event for the Mario Galaxy 2.
Yeah.
Mario Galaxy 2, one of the greatest games of all damn time.
Never
Nintendo,
played
please re-release it. Isn't that right? New face of video games. Blessing Adeoye Jr.
That is right. It's really hard to follow up Greg saying that he got Reggie Fils-Aimé for the Gamescast because I was going to be like, Tim, as of 2 seconds ago, I got to the final level of Kirby, but that's not exciting anymore. So there you go.
Oh, I'm very excited for you.
Yeah,
that
dude,
is
that last world.
You're in
awesome.
You're in some special anime hype moments right now, Bless. Woo!
I'll probably talk about it later in the show, but man, I've been enjoying this Kirby game a lot. You should make more of them.
It's been going around. And speaking of round, I don't know.
Wow. Wow. Interpret it how you want, but there isn't a positive spin you can put on that.
Look at that head. I was talking about the head, that big bald head. Okay? Nothing else. You're looking beautiful.
All around talented.
Oh, thank you.
We go.
Thank you for getting me out of this hole. Okay?
Yeah.
Roger, I apologize. Yeah. I apologize for any bad way that could have been taken. I assure you I didn't mean it that way. But we have Roger Pokorny joining us for his very first review on a Kind of Funny Gamescast.
What's up, everybody? No, don't worry. I took it the my head way. You know what I mean?
That's good. That's what I meant. Yes.
Every time I see myself, I just see my bald, round head now, and that's all I think about. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be here and talk about some Lego Star Wars.
Exactly. That's what we're talking about today, continuing the whole review season situation with a wildly anticipated game for many years, many delays, many situations happening. But today we are going to be talking about Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. Of course, this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. We do it each and every week. We get together, we talk about video games, all the things we love about them. You can watch it on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny Gamescast, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free, if you want to watch live as it's being recorded, and if you want the exclusive post show, which today I guarantee you're going to want to do because Blessing is introducing a new game show within Bless Who. You got to go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like our illustrious Patreon producers have done. Fargo Brady, Pranksy, Tyler Ross, Delaney Twinning, First Responder ND, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, Casey Andrew, and Anonymous. We appreciate all of you so very much. But if you don't have any bucks to toss our way, that's cool. When you're out there buying games on the Epic Game Store, use our Epic creator code Kind of Funny, and some of those dollars will go to us and help support us at no extra cost to you, and that's super cool. I know Fortnite has a lot of cool stuff going on right now, so any dollar you use in Fortnite goes to us. Well, some of it does. So that's really damn cool. Anyways, enough about all of that. Today we're brought to you by Chime, DoorDash, and Dabble, but we'll get to all of that later. Roger Pokorny,
yes.
You have played Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. Have you beat it? Where you at? How many hours you put in? And what are you thinking about it?
Yes. So I put about 20 hours into the game. I finished all of the game start to finish except for episode 6. I'm sorry to say I did not finish episode 6. I started off with episode 7. You can choose in the beginning of your playthrough what trilogy you want to start off with, which I think is really cool. So I started with episode 7. And I ended up giving the game a 4 out of 5. I really, really dig this game. I think it is the perfect entry for a new Star Wars fan and a perfect way to look back on all of the Star Wars movies in a way that is fresh and new. And even for somebody that has probably played the original games, right? Has played those Lego games. I grew up with those games. Those are probably the reason why I love Star Wars so much. I grew up with watching, Phantom Menace when they came out. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is. I don't know what's going on in this fucking movie. But then the games reinforced it. I'm like, oh, okay, I care about Padme. I care about all these little characters. And I think that's the best thing that those Lego games can be doing. And that's what this does. It is able to tell a really conjuncted story in a manner that is universal to everybody. And this is just a joy to play. I will say that in the beginning, just set your expectations pretty solid, right? Like, this is a Lego game. Like, this is not like the definitive Star Wars experience forever. Like, this is just it's a Lego game that has a lot of amazing Star Wars moments in it. But going into it as like, this is a Lego game. It has the pretty solid gameplay. There's going to be building. There's going to be a lot of repetitiveness, but going into it with that really was a better experience, because I think that a lot of the marketing of this game was like, hey, this is it. This is the Star Wars video game. And I don't think if you are, if you played the Lego games and you're like, this is not for me, it's not going to be for you. But as someone who liked the Lego games and hasn't really played them in a minute, this was a refreshing and fun take on the formats, and it adds enough variety to make it exciting.
Talk to me about that variety and what they've changed, Raj, because I'm a big Lego game fan. I honestly started with Lego Star Wars. I remember being back in Colombia and, on one of my days off from the newspaper, that I had set aside that I was going to go get all the red bricks. Like, I was going to, on my PS2, go through and do all this stuff in Lego Star Wars. So obviously those were older versions of the game. And since then, there's been about 1,900 Lego games, including all the DC and Marvel ones and everything under the sun. This is not a remaster. This is brand new from the ground up, and it's everything they've learned. Like, what is this? It's remarkably different from the other Lego Star Wars games, right?
Yes, exactly. It is not a remaster. Don't go into that. And that's also something I want to mention, because I think that I know a lot of people are huge fans of the original games. Some of those beats are gone. That's just how it is. It is a remaster, it's a retelling of those stories. But the combat is completely different. It is there. Sure, you can button mash. I said that in my review. I did button mash quite a bit, but it has full on third person combat now of shooting. Of the force is actually something that is a little bit more utilization with it. Like, it's not just pressing circle and just you just throw somebody across the room. Like, you can actually pick up somebody, throw them, really manipulate it. But that's the main thing that I would say is at the core different, is that combat, because it just does just enough to make you feel like you're playing something that isn't just square the entire time, and it breaks up that format quite a bit. And that is, I think, if you played the original games and you haven't played any of the new modern ones, because I know that they did something similar in Force Awakens. People forget about Force Awakens Lego game. I did too. They did something similar in that. But yeah, no, that is probably the biggest change. But also the thing that is striking immediately when you play this game is the open worlds, right? Like, this is massive. This is a crazy amount of content that they have made for this game. And
sorry, I have so many questions as a Lego fan, but mainly the superhero one. Then, I loved when Lego Batman moved away from, and Lego Marvel moved away from being tied to the movies, right? That's when we had our open world Gotham City and stuff, and we started going that way in Metropolis. For this to be open world, is it like the old, or is it not? Is it like things we've seen before, where you play through the movie and then at the end of that it opens up the thing and you can run around and do it? Or is it open world from the start that you can go take quests or do whatever you want?
So pretty much every time when you start up a game, whatever planet you're on, like in episode 7, I started off, you're in Jakku. Pretty much you do one little mission and then, hey, you're in Jakku. Like you are the full open world, you can run around, and there's a hub area. So basically it takes that hub area from the older games and it just makes it into every planet, which is crazy. Like you are able to, like, any planet that you can think of, any main planet in those things, like it has a full open world where you can run around. And sure, it's not, some of them are not as dense as others. Tatooine is probably one of the more dense ones because it has multiple locations, and you can go to Mos Espa, you can go to the Cantina, but it is this this bigger hub area that you can go around, find side quests, talk to people, discover all the Kyber bricks, as they call it now. They don't have red bricks anymore, sadly, but they're these fun
Tim, if
little
you didn't know,
things.
Kyber crystals are what they put inside their lightsabers to make them go all whoop 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 whoop. You want yellow, you want orange, you got to get that Kyber crystal, Andy.
You want that whoop
Good to
whoop?
know. Great to know.
Yeah.
Raj, you
What's up?
started off with the sequel trilogy. Does is it sort of self-aware in its dialogue in any way when it comes to like, here's how the fans feel about this, maybe we're gonna make a joke about it? Like, does it do anything like that?
It's so funny because they do a lot more of that in the other trilogies. This, I was honestly, like, if we want to get into it, like I was pretty disappointed in the sequel trilogy in this, because it felt like, yeah, but no, I like the sequel trilogy a lot. Not to get into movie stuff, I don't want to talk about that stuff, but like I was very excited for this because I was like, oh fuck, like this is a new.
You haven't had it yet. You haven't.
Yeah, I haven't had it yet. Yeah. So I was like, oh fuck, this is gonna be interesting, and they really dropped the ball with it because sure it has.
What the hell?
Yeah, I was pretty.
Sorry. Just the B-roll Barrett was showing. Can you scroll back like 10 seconds?
We're watching the red room right now.
Snoke there was without context doing a motion that I was not expecting him to be doing in this Lego game. I don't know if this is worth
They had
the
to
bit,
make the
but
sequel interesting, you know.
yeah,
somehow.
yeah.
Gotta spice things up.
Yeah.
But
but this is a great example of this, right? Because when you think about this moment in that movie, right? It's the
He's reeling her in.
He's reeling her in.
Come on.
I apologize.
The Lego
Children's
hands have a
game.
certain shape.
Come on. No, but that when you think about that fight, right? It's a in the movies at least, it's like this chaotic moment of all the red guards coming in and they're working together and they're throwing the lightsaber and all that stuff. They did it in this one where it's split up between Rey and Kylo, and they individually have to fight one guard at a time, and while two guards stand around and just stare at you. And it just completely loses what the fun of that fight was, at least watching it. And it was so strange because playing it with 7, 8, 9, I was like, oh fuck, this game might be a 3 out of 5. But then going back and then playing 1 through 6, or at least 1 through 5 for me, I was like, oh no, wait, this is the Lego I remembered, because they actually play around with the boss fights in those games. Like, you know, if you go to any of the boss fights in the original 2 trilogies, like they have those segments where you're fighting, you know, Darth Maul or whatever, and then he bounces out, and then you have to build something, you have to throw something around, and then he comes back. Almost all of that is gone in 7, 8, and 9, specifically 8 and 9. It was very interesting because it almost feels like they were like maybe given marching orders a little bit, like, of like, you guys can't really play. It's just fresh. It's fresh. You kind of have to play by the book a little bit more. While the other games or the other movies are so much older, so I feel like they have a little bit more leeway in playing around with it. It's pretty. I would say even like too faithful. Too faithful, the 7, 8, and 9 ones, because they get like to a point where they're like they're not playing around with the format enough, which I was kind of disappointed in. But it's still solid. It's still a Lego game. You know what I mean? But it's just,
and I imagine with at least the humor and writing and stuff getting into the sequel trilogy, because I know that's probably what you're asking, Andy, of like, are they a little tongue in cheek with like the fan reactions to those movies? Lego movies, like, they are a good place to, you know, have lighthearted fun at some like weird moments throughout the movies, but they never come from a place of like, oh yeah, these movies sucked or anything. Like, even the original Lego Star Wars game was the prequel trilogy, right? And so it's like, it's more of that like wholehearted fun, and you know, if you hear like the highlight beats and stuff like that, and there's probably some goofy slapstick, but yeah, I don't think.
I guess I was looking more for when we talk about something that is kind of honoring the legacy of something that great while still taking little jabs at it, and this is gonna like
Oh, yeah,
make a lot of people roll their eyes, but like the Family Guy Star Wars episodes.
Yeah, Blue
Like,
Harvest.
obviously, like the blue, like Seth MacFarlane is like a gigantic fan of Star Wars, and like it, knows them inside and out, and made a trilogy of episodes of them to honor them in a way. But whenever there's a moment in the movies that as a viewer you go, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, they will point that out. And so I was kind of hoping for like a little bit of some moments like that. Like, I guess my name is Ray Skywalker. I don't know. Like, something, something like that.
There's like a bit where like in episode 9 where Finn is constantly trying to tell Ray something, like find a fun way to flip that.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that. No, they didn't do that.
Constantly yelling.
Yeah.
Just a fun thing in line with this, I saw that Jake Baldino posted some screenshots, and it's not for the sequel trilogy, but I thought a fun kind of meshing of the two that is poking fun, but like in the way that the Lego games do, is when you're playing as Luke on Tatooine in the original trilogy, there's a protocol droid you can talk to, and it says, "This is a Tusken Raider camp, home of not just the men, but the women and children too." What a fascinating bunch. And it's like that type of like making fun of the prequels, I think is fun.
And something that I should mention about this entire thing is that something that they do really well is that there's gags that go from all the way from episode 1 to episode 9. Like, there are bits that they continue throughout all of these things, and they're able to make kind of this cohesive universe, even if 7, 8, and 9 feel a little bit more like they're taking it seriously. But like the sand thing, they always bring up how Anakin hates sand, and like they like, I don't want to spoil too much, but like there's a lot of little things like that that continue throughout it. And
look, I was gonna say, looking at some of these screenshots, I was asking Barrett about this over the weekend, because I think after playing Lego Builder's Journey and seeing what Lego can look like with ray tracing and that sort of power, I think we know this game has been in development for quite some time, and it doesn't quite look like that sort of next-gen game that I was hoping it would look like. Because Lego games have always kind of had a sort of flat look. And I think the best showing I've seen of it so far was that Red Room fight, where we do see a lot of screen space reflections, and we're getting kind of cool lighting on the ground and things like that. But other areas, just like, I think it reminds me of like when you watch an old animated movie where what is the background and what is the thing that will eventually move. And like, I feel like whenever we see some of these environments, what the Lego thing is, obviously, because it looks like a Lego ship, and it doesn't feel like it's really set in that world. But I am hoping that maybe, I don't know, maybe along the lines they do add some sort of upgrade or something like that.
I mean, it still looks stunning. Like, this looks better than the Lego games, and some of it's cinematography, I think, but it looks better than a lot of. I mean, I played so many Lego games last generation.
Yeah, I guess I just got spoiled by that, by Lego Builder's Journey. That game was just like, wow, these things look, so real, and they look lived into this environment, because it's the most realistic lighting possible.
I was very impressed with the graphics from what I've played. There was like a couple times where I'm with you, Andy, where I'm like, it is always odd when you know exactly what you can interact with and what you can't. But I started with episode 1, and by the time that we landed on Naboo, I was like, holy shit, those backgrounds look incredible. And I didn't expect to be wowed by graphics at all from this game. But, and again, not saying consistently, but like I at least had one moment where I was like, this looks way better than I expected it to.
Awesome. All right.
Talking about the I guess the design and like the graphics and stuff like that. First of all, I think it looks good. I think it looks good, especially with the lighting. The lighting for me, at least, was the thing that kind of pushed it over the edge. There are moments where it does feel flat, and I agree with you, Andy. But there's one.
Yeah, this looks really good right here.
It looks good. It looks good in motion.
And like back now, you know what I mean?
Hey, take a fucking seat, dude. All right.
You know what? I'd love for you to walk over right now and break your ankle. Just walk over to your TV and break your fucking ankle.
Wild energy I've stumbled across today.
Oh man, I'm coming off that wrestling stream. I'm sorry.
But they do this interesting thing where like, so there's like actual like particle effects when it comes to like just like water and stuff like that. But then like in cutscenes and things like that, they have like the studs that represent the water. And they're really big, and they like take me out of the game. That's like such a weird small nitpick, but like they're really big, and they just look like a bunch of Lego pieces. And I get what they're trying to do, but it's weird mixing it with
like in the Lego movie where you see the waves of the actual like one piece.
Yeah, but they don't do that everywhere. But they don't do that everywhere. So so they have like actual waves in the background, and then they have like randomly like someone will throw water in someone's face, and then it would be like a bunch of studs. It's like,
by the way, I didn't know you were saying water until like I've never heard anybody pronounce it that way, Roger, and I love that for you. I love that that's now going to be your thing.
Yeah, fuck, God damn it. Now I'm round to I pronounce water. How do I pronounce it? How do I pronounce
Water
it?
Workshop.
Yeah. Water. What? Fuck.
We're all such fucking useless assholes here. This is how we welcome Roger to his first review.
Jesus Christ.
Real quick, I want to say just from the top. So I didn't get enough chance to play this game yet as much as I'd wanted to because it was a busy weekend with events and stuff. But I don't think it's possible to have ever been interested in Star Wars even a little bit and booting this game up for the first time, not absolutely losing your mind with how incredible the menu screen is and the intro video that plays to get to the menu screen. Okay. It is Star Wars art, man, and it goes through the entire, like all three trilogies in a way that mixes them together and makes them all feel equal and just equally hype and special. And when it ends on the title screen, yeah, Barrett has it pulled up here. Like it's the most epic Star Wars music playing right now. It's from I think it was the episode 9 trailer, or it might have been Force Awakens. One of the two. It's that music, and they kind of like tell the entire story and lineage of Star Wars through a lightsaber, like. There's transitions like you just saw there where like she swipes and they just keep doing it, going through a bunch of the different iconic fights. And it's just so damn cool and got me so in the mood to play. And it ends with the title screen and you just see like all the different characters from across the saga together. And I was just like, oh man, here we go. And then I booted up. I decided to start with episode 1, which I kind of, in the same way you've been talking about, Roger, like the nostalgia for Lego Star Wars, like I think that does have something to do with it, like the prequel trilogy being the first Lego games ever really like of this style, first ones I played. But even just, I have so many fond memories of episode 1 video games, whether it's Jedi Power Battles or the horrible episode 1 game itself. But the thing, say what you will about the movies and stuff, like there's so many fun gameplay elements and story beats in those prequel games or prequel movies. It's fucking rad, right? And yeah, just playing the opening like hour of episode 1, I was like, it took me a little longer than I expected to wrap my head around the new controls, because like it simultaneously feels more like the old Lego games than I expected it to from how it looks. But also there's a lot more deep mechanics than I expected as well. Like the amount of combos that you can do and the amount of, you were saying you can kind of just button mash, and you can, but if you want to get really good and intricate with it, like there's some really dope shit you can do. Like Soonhee Legend is the Twitter guy, right? That does they can do some dope stuff with this game. And that is something that I wouldn't have expected from a Lego Star Wars game, right? But like there is enough abilities and kind of like controls mapped to, or buttons that cause actions mapped to the controller that you can chain together in a way that is very cinematic and fluid and fun.
Yeah, and even there's even upgrades. There's a whole upgrade system. That's where the Kyber bricks come into play.
And this is what you were talking about in your review, right? Like there's upgrades, but they don't really do much.
Yeah, they're so the bigger upgrades that the only ones that I actually use that I actually I think are worth a damn are the general ones, which are basically like, oh, you can like find all the mini kits and you can like your sprinting goes really fast or whatever. But
so is that no longer applied to finding objects? That's like, or because you remember you used to assemble the mini kits, or was that what was tied to the red bricks? You do that and then you could spend the money to get the finders and locators and all that jazz. Now it's like an ability.
Yeah, it's just an ability. Yeah, where you find enough. You have enough. I think it's a combination between Kyber bricks and some money. So it's like 10 Kyber bricks and 20,000 coins to unlock or something. And yeah, so that's one of the general ones. So I pretty much did all the general stuff, but there's like class specific stuff now, which is really interesting. I didn't use any of it. I think there's some stuff for style, like which going back to the Twitter thing, you can totally like go into the bounty hunter and you can like do slides and you can upgrade that, and like that's an ability that if you want to do, but I don't feel like any of them are as interesting as or as useful rather as the general tab for me.
And when you all have mentioned that you started on certain trilogies, you can swap out whenever, right? You're not locked into that by any means. Okay.
But yeah, if you
But-
go to if you like I started in the original trilogy and I just finished episode 5. Like I could go to the prequel trilogy, but I would have to start at episode 1. Like you have to always start at the first episode of the trilogy.
Yeah. Oh, and also something to note is that starting at episode 7 kind of fucked me because there's no Jedi until the end of that game. So I had no Jedi unlocked for free play until I finished that game. But then if you play episode 1, like 5 seconds in, you get Qui-Gon Jinn, you get Obi-Wan.
Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Which
yeah, exactly.
Just for playing, like the love that's put in this game is so clear, even just from the get-go of the Star Wars stuff, and like just like how the humor of the Lego games that's always been there, but it does feel modernized in a way that it didn't feel like kind of corny or cringy. It felt right. But starting off with episode 1, you do get the 2 Jedi, and being able to switch back and forth between them, like just the little tiny things of the way they hold their lightsaber. Like when you're in just the standard pose, like Qui-Gon's holding it in a more like meditative type way, like he did at the end of episode 1 with the red blast thingies, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then whereas Obi-Wan, he'll hold it and he does the pose where he holds it up above his head a bit more, like he does in episode 2. With like just the different kind of fighting stances with the lightsabers, and it's just so cool to see these little Lego characters do that, and like little subtle moments where you're like, cool, they all kind of look the same because they're Legos, but then you're like, oh, that's clearly Obi-Wan just from the way he moves.
Yeah, they a lot of little things like that for every single character in this game, including even voice acting for characters that you see for 3 seconds. When you play them in free play, there's like they have like 4 or 5 pieces of dialogue, but there's like hundreds of characters. I forgot how many, but there's
I think there's 300 characters to unlock.
Jesus, yeah, I was playing with that random the Clone Wars. Fuck, what's her name? The one that the bounty hunter that put the little creatures in Padme's window.
Oh, the
I was
one
playing
who
as her.
like works with Jango Fett.
A changeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, like she had like one line in the game, and then like you play as her open world, and she has like a full thing. When you get a Kyber brick, she says like something. It's like really wild.
Someone pointed out on Twitter, I think that like in episode 4, like Leia starts off with a British accent, and then like halfway through like the game, she like goes back to an American accent. Like just like little dumb details like that they're like again making like fun jabs and not like the classic like Lego stuff, and they really went all out with like just like the weird little Star Wars details that they could.
Yeah.
So are they all new voices? Are they using movie audio at all? Because I know they've walked that line and gone back and forth on stuff.
That's interesting because that is something that works to various degrees. There are moments where it is definitely like this is cut from the movie, then they try to like throw in somebody else like trying to do an impression of Kylo or whatever. And some of them work, some of them don't. The Kylo one's kind of rough. It's like, oh, that's definitely Adam Driver. Then it's like, oh, that's not Adam Driver. But yeah, so they do a lot of intercutting, and they have moments where they like expand on the situation that you can't just take from the movie.
That's interesting.
When Nick joins the podcast, we'll get him to do his Kylo impression.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't experienced that yet because like with the original trilogy, right? Like they definitely had to get like an entire like new voice. Like they can't like bring in like anybody else to really do that. So like it's all, at least from what I've played, I've only rolled through the episode 4 and 5, but I haven't noticed any like movie audio or anything yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that makes sense. I think that was a fully new VO. Yeah.
How's the pod racing? Because that's the thing that I'm most excited to get to. Oh,
good.
No.
It's good.
Okay,
It's good.
okay.
It's solid. It was one of the more standout moments of that
great.
section of the game.
I didn't know this is a thing. I'm in.
No, yeah, it was fun. It's fun, and it is very intense. I think there were some moments we can get into later, but like I had some glitches with this game, some bugs, and I had a few in this moment where I like hit a wall and then I went through the wall, and then it was like, fuck, this is a whole thing. But yeah, no, it was a fun and very. I wish there was more of it. I wish there was like a pod racing mini game. I'm pretty sure it's just this. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat or anything, but yeah, it's just that. But as the level, it's fun. It's a good time.
In that view, it looked like you were playing the darkness, Greg, but as 2 robot arms, and you're just kind of like reaching out for somebody doing that because of the way Anakin's. Remember the darkness? That's my Sebulba's impression.
So good, Andy. Every fucking time.
How's
All right, so
the
you said,
story in
well,
the game?
go for it.
Because I like as somebody who there's, and I feel like this is probably all of us, right? There's a handful of Star Wars movies that I really like, and then there's a handful where I'm like, give or take, right? I might not like this one, or I might not be into episode 9. If you have those ones for you, right? Like, can you hop into the sequel trilogy and still enjoy it if you're not a sequel trilogy person, or the prequel trilogy?
Yeah, for the most part. The sequel trilogy is the hardest one, right? Because it's like, again, like they don't play into the core of what the Lego funness is too much. They play it somewhat seriously in parts. So I feel like it's tough for if you like, let's say you hate episode 2, like you're gonna have a fucking amazing time playing that specifically. But the sequel trilogy is kind of a mixed bag. I think you'll find something out of it, but I don't think you're gonna love it as much as the other ones.
What if you haven't seen some of the movies? Because for me, like the prequel trilogy is one that I probably saw passively as a kid, and then like I never made the effort to actually watch it because like everybody shits on the prequel trilogy. Is it worth jumping into in Lego Star Wars? Do they do enough of a good job like portraying the story?
Yeah, they do a great job. I think I personally think that is.
I would push back on that a little bit because I feel like you're less in on the joke at that point. If you're going in on it, I feel like there's got to be at least like at least one movie watch through knowledge to like. I think really.
What if I refuse to watch the movies because I tried once?
I
got 30 minutes
go into the first level,
no.
and if like you're not into the first level, like then maybe it's not for you if you're really like putting your fist down on no prequels. But
I see what you're saying, Barrett. But I think this is. I was looking at it from a lens of like, if I never saw the movies, like would I be able to understand what the fuck is happening? And I think not only do you understand what's happening, but it has jokes that are built in without knowledge of the movie, right? Like you're able to hop in and be like, okay, this is just funny. Like they're just being clowns. Like they're having a good time. Like it's not like, hey, this is something that is related to the movie. You have to have watched it in order to understand it. And also like, I personally like, again, like I played the original Lego Star Wars game before I watched episode 1. And I think that was a pretty solid way to get into the franchise. So I think, hey, maybe you'll play it. Maybe you'll play it in this one, and maybe you'll watch the movie. Maybe
that's what my thing is. Like, I'm not like necessarily anti-prequel by any means. I'm just anti-prequel in the way that I don't want to watch the movies. I've played played plenty of the prequel Star Wars games and have enjoyed them, and like I have a loose understanding of what happened in the prequel. So like, if you tell me that the Star Wars prequel games are fun and like I can hop into the prequel levels in this one and like have a good time, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I'm not anti-prequel content. I'm anti-prequel source material. That's where everybody's at. How is the Watto?
The Watto's good. The Watto's good. He has good moments. Yeah,
is he the most
almost brought
powerful
to a 5 out of
game?
5.
What's up? Is he the most powerful character? Yeah, I mean, listen, he might be because I tried to kill him immediately as soon as I walked up to the motherfucker, and he didn't die. So hey,
wow, there you go.
Hey, yeah.
One thing I do want to like shout out, because this was the aspect that I was most excited for, was like the flying around dogfighting stuff, which was like way much bigger than I thought it was going to be. Like I thought we were definitely going to get certain levels, like I'm showing the end of A New Hope here, but like Roger was saying, with the kind of the big hub areas in between missions, there are also like just there's space to go explore in between missions and stuff. And like we showed it a tiny little bit earlier. Sorry, I'm using, people were very quick to upload full playthroughs of this game when the embargo broke. So I'm jumping around finding footage as I can, but you can pull up like a full galaxy map, and it contextualizes kind of in their interpretation of like where these planets are in relation to each other. And there's like things to do around like Yavin 4 in space and stuff like that. That was like really, really cool. And like, like I'm getting so distracted. The first thing I texted Roger, like when we got codes, was like, God damn, this game is huge. And it's one of those, like I let myself get a little distracted throughout like some missions, like if I'm in a hub area, but at the same time I'm like, just play through the stories and then like unlock all the like different like class types that you need, and then just go explore, because there's going to be so much to go through and stuff like that.
They even I don't know if you saw that, but like I've been doing side quests, and like now they're at the point now where they're like, hey, it's on Tatooine, and they're like, actually, my friend in Yavin 4 has something. Can you go get that and then bring it back to me? Like there is a little bit of galaxy hopping, planet hopping, and then you come back, which is neat. But Yeah, no, it's a impressively huge world for sure.
I mean, I was surprised even booting it up and starting with episode 1, and it starts with some space flight stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, whoa, didn't see this coming. Like this was, and it was like fun to control, even where it was kind of like the left stick. Yeah, exactly right here, Barrett. Thank you. Left stick kind of like has you just controlling the ship, and then right stick allows you to barrel roll like fully around. And it was just like the controls felt really intuitive in a way that I was impressed by.
It reminded me of Battlefront 2 a little bit, of the dogfighting from that game.
Yeah. So
yeah, I at first I was pretty mixed on the flying because I opened it up again. Episode 7 may not be the best way to play this game originally, but I start off the first time you get into a space thing is the Millennium Falcon, and it feels very slow, especially when you're next to the ground. Like it just feels like a very slow fight. So I wasn't really digging it, but as I played it, I started to enjoy it more. The one gripe that I have with it is that when you're in space, they have like these little icons for each of the people that you need to fight, and they're like really big exclamation points. So like it looks like you're just like fighting a bunch of punctuation instead of like actually fighting like a TIE fighter. But I don't know how they would get around that. It's tough, especially since it's a dark background.
It reminds me of like like I was saying, the dogfighting from Battlefront 2. They even have like the little circles to be like, hey, you should probably aim here, so like when your laser actually reaches like where they are, it'll most likely hit them here and stuff like that. And I think they kind of needed to add those exclamation points. I get what you're saying though, Raj.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things because like, you know, at the end of this day, this is a kid franchise, and this is a Lego game for a kid franchise. So they have to like make some things a little more accessible and for kids to easily understand of like, oh, this is an enemy right here and stuff like that. So,
real quick, we got a couple more questions to talk about for Lego Star Wars. But before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsors.
For most of us, learning a second language in high school or college wasn't exactly a high point in our academic careers. I took 3 years of French, and guess what? It didn't stick. Now, thanks to Babbel, the language learning app that's sold more than 10 million subscriptions, there's an addictively easy and fun way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad, connecting in a deeper way with family, or just have some free time, Babbel teaches you bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually want to use in the real world. Je parle un peu français, and I was talking to Jen's mom here and there about little things. Mon chapeau, you know what it's about. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you improve your pronunciation and accent. I could use that for English. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, you can save up to 60% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/kindafunny. That's babbel.com/kindafunny for up to 60% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life. No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills due. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early with direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is more than just getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/kfgames. That's chime.com/kfgames. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank and Stride Bank NA, members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depend on the payer. You got back-to-back meetings, errands to run, and chores to take care of. What's the secret to clearing your to-do list? A little help from DoorDash. You can get dinner, household essentials, and everything on your grocery list delivered. I'm gonna pause the ad and tell you, ladies and gentlemen, how do I know so much about DoorDash? I used it this morning. I woke up, I had to get the house ready. I had this guy coming to work on the garage. I had the nanny coming over. We had no clean bottles. I cleaned the bottles and everything. And I was like, I'm hungry and I need coffee and I don't have time to make either. I DoorDashed Jen and I some breakfast today and it was great. When I was sick last week, I DoorDashed Gatorade because I wasn't about to go out. DoorDash is great. Back to what they wrote. Ordering is easy and your items will be left safely outside your door when you choose contactless delivery drop-off. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code KindaFunny. That's 25% off up to a $10 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code KindaFunny. Don't forget, that's code KindaFunny for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change, terms apply.
Sorry, Raj, continue.
No, I was gonna answer a question you had on Kind of Funny Games Daily.
course.
The Switch version. The Switch version.
Thank you.
Yes, it is good. It is good. I was surprised.
Wow.
It's I mean, it's Switch, right? Like, and let's just put our expectations there. But it's the full game. That's something that I was a little worried about, just because I know they've been putting out full games on the Switch recently, but I've had a very long and storied past with getting a DS version of Lego Star Wars, getting very excited about it, realizing it's not really the full game, and then getting pretty sad about it. But no, this is the full game. It runs solid. Aliasing is pretty rough on it, especially when you dock it. But if you're playing it on the Switch on your handheld mode bed, it's totally fine. It's totally doable. So I think that is a perfect, before bed game for sure.
Awesome. And then the other question I had on Games Daily related to this was, so now that you kind of like played through at least the majority of the like story missions and all that, are you like, I want to go back and like get everything, like I want to do all the side quests? Or you kind of like, I had my fun with where the core game was at?
I think that I'm going to end up going back. It's hard to say because I really devoured this game faster than I expected to. Like I devoured it so fast. I'm like, I never want to see a Lego game for the next week, 2 weeks. Like I'm gonna play some Elden Ring and then I'll come back. But once I come back, I have a feeling that this is going to be like a late night. I don't know what to play. This is just a good, chill time, relaxing.
I have a good feeling about this.
I have a good feeling about it. The amount of times they say a bad feeling in this fucking, and the amount of cantina jokes in this game, a lot. Oh my God, it's a lot. It's every single episode, but I love it. It's fun. And the writing's really good. That's just something I should say. The writing is really good. There was like one time where I was like, I don't know about that joke, but that's really good for 9 episodes of story. That's pretty solid. I think the jokes landed for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. It's something I've been thinking about is like, do I want to get the platinum for this? Is this a game that like I really want to stick with? And yeah, I think I'm similar to you, Roger, where it's like I want to like I want to get through the 9 episodes and then kind of like reevaluate like where I'm at, because there is a lot to do. And it's like I looked at the trophy list and it's like one trophy will be like like do all of the objectives in one mission, and then the next trophy will be do all of the objectives in every mission. It's like, oh, so there's no in between. It's just like the beginning and the very end. So we'll see how that fares. It's just like it seems it's not like a hard one, but a lengthy one, right? So we'll see if that turns into like a late night where I'm like, thank you. Like in between games, like I'll boot this up and try to slowly but surely knock out a trophy or 2.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or questions about Lego Star Wars?
I second Roger's score.
Thank you. I if you are excited about this game, have any interest in it, if you played the original games and you were like, hey, those were fun times when I was a kid, and you want to relive some of that, so play this game. That's what I think. Also, this game is pretty short. Like each not the entire thing, but each mission you can golden path in about an hour and a half, like each episode. So I think it's definitely doable depending on your play style, and if you just want to get in there, play a little bit, and just bounce out for the night. So for sure, 4 out of 5. Great game.
Yeah. And good news, bad news. Good news, there's co-op and it seems cool. Bad news is there's no online co-op. Yeah, and that sucks because I would have loved to do that.
They were that years ago, and I would love to see them address it again. I remember back in the day when they removed it, the argument in the E3 demo where they were talking about it was like, hey, we have the statistics. We see how many people use it. Nobody does. But it's like now we're in a much different place, right? In terms of who plays games and how they play game. And I would be interested to see if they could somehow run statistics on that again, if people actually cared.
So now moving on from Star Wars to Star Trek, I'd like to introduce another person to this Kind of Funny Games cast, the one and only Nick Scarpino.
About time, Tim. I had to sit through 30 minutes of you dorks talking about Star Wars. When we all know the superior series, of course, beat me up, Tim, is Star Trek. Thanks for having me on your podcast. Cool.
So the GDC just happened, and last week, we were out there and we were like, hey, we got to send people to do things. Let's send Nick Scarpino to go preview a video game. And you did just that. You played Star Trek Resurgence. What did you get to do, and what did you think about it?
I saw a demo of this game. It was super fun. Thank you for hooking that up, guys. As you know, I'm a huge Star Trek
Guys.
fan. It was mostly Greg. Yeah,
Thanks.
Greg was like, Greg didn't even ask me. He goes, "Hey, I'm sending you to this Star Trek appointment." And I went to, which was cool, by the way. It was fun to actually see everyone in person and actually feel like we were a real human being again and see a game. So being a part of GDC was fun. And then they were like, "Hey, man, you must be packed. Do you have anything after this?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna go home." And
I only came. This is the only game I'm previewing.
I literally told them, like, this is the only appointment I have at GDC, and the look they gave me, these fine developers who were crammed in this hotel room all day. I'll tell you what. But I did, in fact, get a Reese's peanut butter cup afterward, one of those little Reese's eggs.
Fantastic.
And that made it worth it.
Great detail.
Worth it. Yeah, cool game. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's like, it's a narrative adventure game. It's a narrative adventure game. We saw, I saw a few scenes from it. I saw both the characters that you play as, and it's fun. I mean, I watched it for a long time, not realizing that I was supposed to interact with it because the story kind of draws you in very well. And it's like watching an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I think honestly is the highest praise I could ever give anything. So I'm excited to play through it when it comes out. Tim, you'll be excited. It's on the Epic Game Store for PC. So maybe we can play that for one of our streams or something. But it looks cool. It looks very cool.
So again, this is the one that's from Dramatic Labs, right?
Correct.
That's like 20 people who used to work at Telltale.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Is it the same idea then? So like this is what happens. You have it pop up and you go.
Yeah, same basic ideas as just more of a story-driven game. You're not looking for a ton of like. There will be some playable mechanics as far as like tricordering and like I think you get to pilot a starship or one of the shuttle ships at a certain point. But for the most part, you're getting mostly the story that's going to happen here. And the setup is really, really cool. You get you play as either the first officer Rydick as she takes control or command rather of the Resolute, which is a new ship. And you kind of get thrust in the middle of a peacekeeping mission to the Hotari system, where you have to kind of broker a peace between these two warring factions that war just broke out. Mind you, Tim, of course, you're asking yourself, Nick, is there an ion storm anomaly? Of course there is, Tim. It wouldn't be a Star Trek
time travel
if there wasn't some sort of anomaly. And of course, you have to go, and one of the setups is Ambassador Spock pulls you aside and says, hey, you might have to go back channel some of this stuff. So you're going to have to do like a little espionage there. That's one of the characters. And the other character is you play as Carter Diaz, who's an engineer, and he's got to go. We left him and one of his counterparts having to go out onto the hull of the ship and fix some stuff, but I didn't get to see that part. So you're going to.
Are these new characters, the ones you're playing as?
Yeah, these are new characters. It's a new ship. The Resolute hasn't existed, I don't think. This happened sort of around, I think, the Star Trek Insurrection timeline. Okay. So if you've seen that movie, it's kind of like, to put it in like kind of layman's terms, it's like Picard era. Next generation sort of era Star Trek, which is one of my favorite eras, if not the best, as far as the timeline's concerned. But yeah, I mean, it just looks like you're playing a really long episode of the show. It's all one. It's not coming out episodic. I think that's the big difference between that and the Telltale games. So you can just kind of play. I think some of the feedback they had gotten was that people felt compelled to play for 1 to 2 hours for longer periods of time, whereas this kind of is going to be a longer story that you can kind of come dip in and out of. But it's cool. It looks great. It's on the Unreal Engine, so it looks really nice. So
does it look good? That's the one thing I haven't been able to nail. Like as I see this trailer and a couple other things that I've seen, it's like
good.
Does it look good, or is it empty environments? But then it's space. But you know what I mean. Like
I didn't see enough of it. They only showed us a couple slices from the game. So Blessing, to answer your question, I'm not sure how it plays out as far as that's concerned. I know you bounce back and forth between two characters, but they only showed us two or three cutscenes that were that
they're walking and talking, guys. They're doing it. It's authentic.
Which is great. I mean, honestly, that's kind of high marks for the game is that the story got me. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'd watch that. Like, I want to watch this. And the fact that I get to interact and kind of mill about the ship, and there's a lot of areas that you can just kind of veer off and explore. Sounds pretty cool. As to, I'm one of those people where I'm like, I just kind of care about the main story mission. I'm not really a side quest guy. So if there's too much of like, I don't think there's going to be a ton of needless exploration, but it draws me in that obviously your choices do matter as far as the fate of your character. So that's pretty cool. So that'll keep me sticking with it, I think.
So like, I guess final question for you is like, do you actually plan to play through this?
I'll play. I would like to play a little bit of it. Yeah, I would like to play the first couple hours of it and see if that grabs me. I've never really been drawn to like more story-driven games like this. Like I know I don't really know enough or have the vocabulary to kind of get an analog, but from what I've read, it's like Tales of the Borderland or the Telltale Game of Thrones game, things like that. Those never really spoke to me. I know Greg was super into the Batman game that came out. I'm more. I think I need a playable mechanic here. Like slowly walking around the ships might not necessarily speak to me, but I'll give it a shot. It's Star Trek, and it looks like it's a well done Star Trek. And so that's something cool to look forward to.
In the trailer, they had scenes of the character like looked like he was lasering something, and there was another scene of him like scanning some shit. Is that in the game? Is that like
you're gonna
gameplay
have
stuff?
evidently I didn't see any of that, but they said yes, you're gonna have some of those playable mechanics in the game, including I think a shuttle, piloting a shuttle somewhere around there. But those aren't the main mechanics of the game. The main mechanics are more of just talking and the dialogue choices and how those are gonna play out.
Is there humor?
From what I saw, it's if as much humor as there's ever been in a Star Trek The Next Generation episode. But I will say this. I'll say this. They haven't announced the guy's name yet, but whoever's doing the VO for Spock is incredible. And apparently they auditioned a bunch of people for it. Because I was like, it tripped me out at first. You get to the scene with Spock, and I'm like, wait a minute. When did you guys record this? I'm like, did you guys record this with Leonard Nimoy before he passed? And they're like, no, we just have a really good VO actor.
No,
I guess they're going to talk about later. But
He brought him back.
It's spot on. The guy's great. So
Spock on.
Hey. But
Greg
yeah,
woke
very,
up,
very cool.
everybody.
Definitely worth getting up a little early for.
Thank you so much, Nick, for coming through. Do you have a Kylo impression you want to leave us with?
Yes, please.
A Kylo Ren impression?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
No, that's not the one.
Thank you so much. Nick.
Buffalo Bill.
Put the lotion
one I
in
was-
the basket.
That's not the one I was
Is that
looking for.
Kylo?
He does a really good. The girl.
Oh. Well, it's ruined now.
Do it.
I don't think you're thinking of me. I don't think I do a good Kylo
No,
Ren
it's
impression.
you. It was definitely you. The girl. The girl.
I'll try it for you, Andy. Ready? Ready? I'll put the lotion.
Oh, god damn it. Get him out. Get him out of the call. God damn it.
Where's the
All right, Andy Cortez, let's go to you.
He's still going.
There's a little
to
video
stay.
game called Hyper Light Drifter.
Yeah.
And a little sequel just got announced last week, and you must be pretty excited about that, isn't that right?
I am. Yeah, they're finally returned to the universe. G4 did a little preview event with Heart Machine, in which the sort of lead director was talking about how Heart Machine became multi-project about a year ago, which makes a lot more sense as to why this game is happening. Because I was like, no way they're going to debut a new game. That's Solar Ash just came out last year. But they mentioned that they are working on a game based in the universe of Hyper Light Drifter. This isn't a sequel because the story of the Drifter is done. And this game is called Hyper Light Breaker, published by Gearbox. And it really seems like they are going for the Risk of Rain approach. It's going to be a roguelite. It's going to have multiplayer or single player. They've kept on kind of like saying, you can't, yes, it's single player as well. This isn't just like one of those games that, yeah, you could play a single player, but it's more fun with other people. It really seems like they are still trying to kind of let the single player gamers know that, no, you're going to be fine. This is going to be a single player game. It's set in that universe. It is a third person action adventure game. A lot of slashing, different classes, it seems. Based on kind of the images that they've released, there's like 5 different silhouettes of different looking drifter type characters that are all kind of like, one looks like the big bruiser, one looks like a faster sort of melee person. So I feel like there's going to be different classes here, but it does seem like they are going for the Risk of Rain approach with roguelite elements. And yeah, it's super exciting because this is something that I wanted. I wanted a 3D translation of the Hyper Light Drifter game for quite some time now. Hyper Light Drifter is one of my favorite games, and I actually recently started replaying it for like the 3rd time. And it's interesting going back to it and kind of seeing the seeds that have started a lot of these top-down action games. Because at the time, when I first played this, I wasn't really playing a whole lot of other top-down Zelda likes, and I feel like this one kind of was the one that was my first sort of like, oh, this is a modern take on that top-down Zelda Link to the Past style game. It's a Link to the Past with a slash and a gun and a dash mechanic. Like, this is awesome as hell. And after replaying it, I've been about like a couple hours in at this point, and it's just so well polished and it's so well ahead of its time in terms of how other games like Death's Door and like Tunic and a bunch of other kind of games of this ilk. I feel like a lot of people are getting kind of jaded and tired of this style of indie game because they have become so ubiquitous in the indie space. I'm having a blast with it though. I really do feel like it kind of is the perfect blueprint for a lot of other games to sort of take ideas from, and it's a really good game, and goddamn, it still holds up, and I still have a lot of fun with the combat, and the complexities of the boss battles are an absolute blast. But yeah, we'll see how that all translates to 3D, because I assumed if they are going to ever make a 3D version of this, it's going to be like Death's Door. It's going to be isometric. It's going to look like Link to the Past, Link's Awakening rather, with all the kind of cool tilt shift 3D stuff. But it is a straight up like camera behind your character. You're running. You have your dash and your gun, and those are some of the images they've released so far. But this is going to be an early access game, Hyper Light Breaker. Early access will be available in 2023. They're taking that same approach they did with Hyper Light Drifter. They're doing the same approach that Hades did, where they are going to start releasing the game in chunks, and then I'm assuming the official release might be a year and a half from then. But early access begins spring 2023, and we'll see how that goes, because I haven't really taken a part in that. I know, Greg, you took part in the Hades early access, much like I did for a little bit, and it was interesting to see how that game sort of evolved over time.
For sure. And I think, that's always the give and take with early access, is how do you get into it? When do you want to get into it, right? Like, you can jump in early and then struggle through stuff and help them make it better, or wait, however long it's going to be to then get the final product and see what it's actually going to shape up to be.
Yeah, does that ruin the surprise and the
100%.
experience for me? I mean, I am kind of worried about that, because I've just been looking so forward to being back in that universe, because I think Heart Machine has such a great art style and art direction that a lot of other games have sort of taken inspiration from, and I'm so stoked to kind of see it. But how much of that do I want to leave as a surprise for myself? What were you gonna say, Bless?
Sure.
Yeah, no, I was gonna mention that I think Hades has kind of changed the game in terms of how people receive early access, because I was in that same boat where anytime a game is announced for early access, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm sure the game's gonna like come out, and then it's probably gonna struggle for however many months, and then the excitement of it dies down, and then official release comes through, and we don't talk about it as much.
Right.
Hades kind of had the opposite effect, where because early access, it worked out the way it should have worked out, where they worked on it, iterated, and it came out, and then more people hopped into it because they saw it came out, and all of a sudden becomes this big hit that everybody's excited about and talks about. Like for me, I jumped into Arcadegeddon early access because that dropped last July, and I like doing that because like I played it for about like 5 days or so, had a blast with it, saw the vision, and of course like it's early, and so like it's missing out on a lot of mechanics, missing out on a lot of systems, missing out on like a sense of like finalized progression where I feel like I should spend a lot of time in it. So like playing those 5 days, I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm down to put this down right now. Right. I had a good 5 days with it. Let me come back at official release, which right now I think that's slated for like later this year. And then I'll jump into it then and have fun with it then. And I hope for Hyper Light Breaker, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I hope for this that works out the same way, because I think this game looks cool. And I'm like, I also hopped into Solar Ash, and like the things I liked about that game were how it felt and like how smooth the movement was and the combat was. I think that's a thing that could translate pretty well to something like this. And it looks like they're taking a lot of the foundation they kind of built in terms of how that game looks and flows, and are building it into Hyper Light Breaker. And so if that's the case, I'm looking forward to it. And also like, I think for me, the thing that I didn't necessarily love about Solar Ash was how, I guess, like obscure the world was in a way that felt like it was trying to be a Shadow Colossus, or it was trying to be a Pathless. That mixed with its visuals not necessarily living up to what I liked about something like the Pathless, or again something like Shadow. I think this coming out in early access and being multiplayer and seeming like it's trying to do a different thing is going to add a lot to it, because I imagine that this is probably going to be very gameplay and systems heavy in a way that I'm sure one Andy will get into, and I think I might get into as well if this game feels as good to play as the Solar Ash did.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more combat focused, where Solar Ash was definitely more maneuvering and platforming.
Yeah, it's like puzzle platformer.
Yeah, but in this, in the Hyper Light Breaker, they mentioned that they are, in order to traverse the world, you will have like a hoverboard of some sort. Which, like, when was the last time you had a hoverboard in the game? That sounds so exciting. But I guess one thing that I am really excited about is that Heart Machine's fan base is so dedicated and so hardcore because of the level of quality that Hyper Light Drifter was when it came out, and it sort of had a dedicated fan base on Tumblr back in the day, and they still post stuff on Tumblr. And what excites me about that is that they have this sort of built-in community, unlike a lot of other games that might come out to an early access, where they have a built-in audience. It's a lot of hardcore people that I think are going to judge the game fairly and give really good quality feedback in order to help.
There it is.
That
Jack
was the
on
last time
hoverboard.
you had hoverboard, Jack and Daxter.
Shout out to the chat for wanting to show that.
And I think what excites me about that is that there's going to be a lot of really good feedback coming from the hardcore audience, helping build this game and make it good as it goes along. Because I feel like a lot of games, much like Arcade Again, might come out, hey, we're early access, but how many people are really hardcore that are a part of that community, you know? And Hyper Light Drifter and Heart Machine kind of have this really neat community that really cares about the products that they're putting out. So I'm excited for that to go into early access because I do think that the game will develop really well. You know, if there's something wrong with it, they will listen to the feedback and try to correct it as it goes on. And hopefully we will have something as good as a Hades. Probably not that level because Hades is, I think, is like a one in a generation type game, but it's exciting to know that I'm going to be able to revisit this world that I really enjoyed existing in during Hyper Light Drifter.
Hell yeah. Bless. You've been playing Kirby. You're about to beat Kirby. What do you have to say about Kirby?
This game is fantastic. I've been having such a good time. I think it is such a Nintendo game in the level of quality and the design, the level design, and like the way they inject objectives into each level. I think that's the thing that's mainly blown me away because everything else in Kirby is very much a, man, this feels like playing a really cool 3D Mario game. Not in terms of like, of course, he blows up and like takes other people's abilities, which I guess Mario did one time. But like in terms of how smart the pathing is, how smart they hint toward, oh man, is this wall over here breakable? Oh man, we're putting this ability here. Maybe you should grab this ability and double back to see if you missed a thing. Like that level of, I guess, the scavenger hunt style of level design for me is very impressive in Kirby. And like for the Kirby games that I played before this, which have been like, I think one of them on Super Nintendo and then the one on N64, like Kirby has always just felt like another baby ass like platformer from Nintendo in a way that like never got me interested. Like I always saw the vision, I always like got what Kirby was trying to be, and like I never really hated on Kirby necessarily. I was just like, all right, no, this ain't for me. But like I see Kirby as a cool, like, hey, let's put this out. The people that love it, and the people that don't kind of skip to Mario or skip to whatever the other thing is. This is the first time where I'm playing a Kirby game where I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I cannot get enough of this. Like I'm on the last boss fight right now. I've not started it, but like I'm about to jump into that level. And once I finish it, I'm probably going to double back to see like, all right, cool. Now I'm going to do all the optional run-based levels that are like 30 seconds to a minute long and see if I can get the high score in all of those. Then I'm going to go back into the levels that I didn't get all the objectives in. And like the reason why I love the objective gameplay specifically in this game, I want to shout out because they have like a level of you jump into the levels. You know you're looking for all the waddle-dees. And like there's a 5 waddle-dees per level that you're collecting. They also have hidden objectives, which you don't know. And those are the things that have kind of taken the game to the next level because now I'm looking at levels in ways that I've never looked at them before, where I am trying to figure out, all right, like what is the gimmick to this level? What do they want me to do specifically here that they're not telling me? Like, am I picking up coffee from tables and drinking coffee? Am I finding the secret area and like using the nap hat so I can take a nap by the pool? Like
this game sounds like such a fever dream.
It kind of is. Like at level to level, you're doing wildly different shit that like really work for it and are really like it's really easy, simple, and I think very fun, right? Like there's not really a grind to it. There's not really a there's not really a lot of conflict for you to like enjoy the exploration that's available in each level. It very much is like get in there, walk around, notice what you notice, and then like if you don't get all the objectives, look through the list that they reveal, and then hop back in if you want to, or go on and do the next thing. And so it's been very great for that. I've been really enjoying Kirby, and also I want to shout out the art style is impeccable. Like I think it might have been last week, I asked you, Tim, about how the game looked and performed on Switch. And granted, I've been playing it mainly on my handheld. I've played it once docked on my TV. I didn't think it looked great then, but playing it on my OLED Switch, I got to a level that was like a desert level where it's like a lot of like, you know, a lot of like vast like empty sand land, and then like a cool mall structure that's in there, and then like you see the wind and the way that like they visualize how the wind looks and like the dust and all that stuff. I thought looked really great, and like the way the colors pop and everything, like it is a fantastic looking game if you're playing on the OLED Switch. And so yeah, I want to give a big shout out to that too.
Yeah, and now that we're we're a week out of release or whatever, I feel like I can talk about some later game stuff. I've been having such a great time post game of all the things that they have you do, going back, getting all the rest of the Waddle Dees. I did it on stream last week, like some of the more challenging combat things that I've had to do that were just giving me issues. Like it was just so satisfying to have that challenge of like, okay, I know I can do this. I just need to not fuck it up, because one of the things was beat these 2 bosses without getting any damage at all. And it's not that hard, but it is just challenging enough where you're like, okay, I got to really focus on this, make sure I'm bringing the right ability into the fight. And I just never thought I'd experience that in a Kirby game, like especially with the history that we've had with the franchise, and understanding like where they're kind of like the ceiling is for the difficulty in the games. And the more I play, the more it strikes me as a Mario game than a Kirby game. When you beat the game, you're about to unlock like end game stuff that is awesome. And it makes you play through the levels in an even different way than you have been, even with the challenge stuff. And I think that the way that they handle it is very Mario-esque, but in some ways even better, where it kind of reuses old. Because remember when we played Mario World, Mario 3D World, and a lot of the challenge levels were just the first levels again remixed.
Yeah.
This does that, but it kind of like gets all like it unlocks like 6 different new levels for you to play through, and each level is an entire world of the game in one level that you're going through. So it kind of like remixes everything in such a cool, clever way. And that is where the challenge actually ratchets up quite a bit. It's still never that difficult, and it always is fun. But I'm just seeing my like percentage to like tick up little by little. And like, I'm getting to the point that I'm like, I don't want this to end. Like, I want more things to do in this game. Like, I can't wait for a sequel. I really think they did something special with this one.
Yeah, I also want to shout out the style of the game too. Like, I really like it does the 3D platformer thing, right, where it is world by world, and like each world has a different theme. I've been surprised now that I've gone to the later worlds. Like, it's not necessarily surprising what they're doing to it, but I do think that it still hits for me, right? Where you get to the final worlds and it is like, here's lava, like here's the stuff you expect from a Nintendo 3D platformer. But that shit hits, like, especially with the music that they're bringing in, with like the visualization. They have good. I love the UI in the overworld when you switch between worlds, because they have like a cool, like really stylish font and like graphic that they put up, and like each time I transition through it, yeah, I'm like, dude, this is it actually pops, and it especially pops for a Kirby game where you
really
least
good
expect
style.
it. Yeah, the style is really awesome. Like, I love everything about how the game looks and sounds, and the soundtrack. I think by the time we get to the end of this year, I think for me, I'm like, it's going to be my top 10 soundtracks at the very least, maybe top 5 soundtracks of the year. It is a fantastic sounding game.
No exaggeration. Like, since I boot this game up a couple weeks ago, not a single day has gone by that I don't have a song stuck in my head the entire day. And it's not the same song. Like, it's not just the main theme. It's like, I've had the desert theme stuck in my head all day today. Yesterday it was the water theme. And it's like, the music is incredible, and it's so catchy, and it's so dynamic, and it's not just one thing. Like, oh, I really enjoyed this game.
Playing this game honestly makes me want them to even take Kirby even further. Like, if they may, like, let's talk about the music right now, right? Makes me think of Mario Galaxy, and how much, when that game first came out, how well that game hit and how well that music hit in particular. And I could easily see, like, after playing this, I'm like, dude, I want a full 3D Kirby platformer. That might be asking too much. In fact, like, this game is already them kind of over delivering based on what Kirby is. But if they took it to the next step and made like of course it's not gonna be Kirby Galaxy, but like for all intents and purposes, right? Like a Kirby Galaxy game, that shit would hit. And like, honestly, after this, I'm like, dude, I can see the design. I can see how you do it, right? Like, all the mechanics are there for you to make it happen. But yeah, man, I've been loving the game. I can't wait to play more. You know, I'm very excited for the post-game stuff. Now that you've kind of hyped it up a little bit, I think for sure I'm gonna get to that as soon as possible.
Hell yeah. And before we leave, Bless, I want to hear about another game you've been playing, DNF Duel.
Yes. So DNF Duel is a new fighting game that's coming out. It's officially releasing late June, but there's a beta currently going on for it. The first beta happened, like, I think end of last year, and this is the second beta for it. But I totally missed it. I didn't know about this game until I put out my Blessing Super Fun game release calendar for 2022, and I got a couple replies of people being like, yo, you check out DNF Duel? Like, you should check out DNF Duel. And so I looked it up, And I realized this game developed by Arc System Works, who are like the goats, right? Like these guys know what they're doing when it comes to fighting games, right? They put out Guilty Gear, they put out Dragon Ball Fighters. They're a fantastic studio. And so that first and foremost made me go, oh, snap, all right, I should pay attention to this. But then looking into it, right? It's a game that's published by Nexon. It is basically a spin-off of Nexon's Dungeon Fighter Online franchise, right? Which is known in, I think it's South Korea, as Dungeon and Fighter. That is what the DNF stands for. DNF Duel is the fighting game spinoff of that. And it is everything you expect from a Arc System Works game, which is, it is a game that is beautiful. It is a game with a fantastic soundtrack. It is a game with stylish characters. It is a fighting game that has really good tight fight mechanics. 2D fighter. Of course, if you played Guilty Gear, if you played any of those games, you know exactly the kind of game I'm talking about. I've been having a blast playing this over the weekend. If you've played any other Arc System game, you kind of know how to pick it up and play, right? Like the characters are really easy to get down. They are all the commands that you kind of understand, right? It is the quarter circle face buttons, right? It is like the projectiles. It is all that stuff that you know. The thing that kind of separates this game gameplay wise from other Arc System games is there's a system called, I forget what it's called. I think it's called like, I can't remember. It's basically you sacrifice health for meter if you want to. So like as you're taking damage, you'll see like a white bar chip up as your health chips down. And if you press one of the shoulder buttons, you'll sacrifice the white bar and that'll then fill in your meter so you can then do special moves. That is a thing that I think is kind of the most unique aspect of the actual like fighting game mechanics in this game. And it's been very interesting like seeing that play out, because like if you don't sacrifice that white bar, what happens is that health ticks back up. And so I think that does two things, right? It adds that extra layer of strategy of, all right, when do I sacrifice my health for my bar? And then it also makes it so that as a player, I feel like I have to be more aggressive because health ticks back up constantly, which means that I need to like stay on my opponent. I need to get combos up. I need to make sure that my opponent is not getting their blocks in and they're not allowing their health to recover. And it's made this game a very fun, like, so far during the beta experience. I'm sure once people get their hands on it, it'll change and evolve and all that stuff. But right now, as I'm playing it, it feels so aggressive in the way that everybody's playing, and I'm really enjoying it for that. The roster is very interesting because like the characters aren't named; they're based after the classes that are from Dungeon Fighter Online. And to give a quick explainer on that, right? Dungeon Fighter Online is basically an action MMO beat 'em up game. It's like a classic game from like the 2000s. And so like the characters aren't named characters. The characters are characters like Berserker, Inquisitor, Grappler, Striker, Ranger, stuff like that, where you're picking a class essentially. And like the classes are associated with like the characters you see on screen. Like it's not customized or anything, but that's just how they do it. And so the characters that I've been rocking with are mainly been Kunoichi, which means female ninja. And I've been loving her a lot. She's really cool. She has like a teleport move that I love. And then there's also I think was it Dragon? No, it was Berserker. I've been rocking with Berserker, who is like this character with a big sword, has like good mid range, and then his gimmick essentially is that if you press X, which is your special ability move, he'll like sacrifice some health to like activate like a buff, and that makes it so that your attacks are stronger and faster. And he's really cool. He's dope as hell. He reminds me almost like a Bloodborne character, like Lady Maria or some shit. That's like a reference I'm sure only Andy will get, but like he's like that, and he's fucking fun to play with, right? Like I was playing yesterday, finding people online, and like I got into it with Big Cheese Kit, who is a dope streamer, and he just happened to like show up in my room randomly. And so I was like, I messaged him. I was like, bro, like come throw hands. I see you're in my room. Like let's play. And the thing that really impressed me about the game is how much we went back and forth. Where at first he picks Crusader, which is like a big character with a big ass hammer that moves slow, but he traps you. And I was playing with Kunoichi. Very quickly, I was like, this is not a good matchup. He's beating my ass. We switched up characters, and real quick, it was a back and forth of me switching back to like I think me picking Kunoichi, him picking a different character, us going back and forth, and it being a thing of us learning each other's strategy from round to round in ways that we are adjusting in real time. And for me, that's like a good sign of, okay, this game knows, this game has it down mechanically, right? This game gives you the options to switch up your play style and switch up like how you go about like reading your opponent and countering and like giving answers to what your opponents are doing. I've been having a blast with it. Again, like it being Arc System Works means the game again looks great, runs great, It feels great. There's rollback netcode, which means the online is really awesome. I can't wait for the final release. Like today is the final day of the beta. For those, if you're somehow watching on Patreon and want to jump in, right, you still have I think the chance to as of now. But the game doesn't come out in full until late June, and I can't wait for it.
Man, I really thought this game was Guilty Gear Strive. Like, I had seen a lot of it online, and I thought it was Guilty Gear Strive, and obviously it's the same developer. But man, they make some of the best striking 2D. Well, it's like 3D, but they make it look 2D with all the cell shading that they're doing. This is like probably some of my favorite art style in any games right now. But I also heard a lot of comparisons to Street Fighter and sort of like the heaviness of the way in how it plays.
There's that. Yeah, the characters are a bit slow, which isn't my preferred, right? I like games that I like fighting games that allow you to kind of like that allow you to dash a bit quicker. I think that's the main thing, is that like if you're on the opposite side of your screen from your opponent, depending on your character, most of the time it's going to be like a process trying to close that gap. And I found myself having that issue at points where I'm playing as there's a character named Striker, who from the name, right? Like they're up close, they do melee attacks, right? That is her thing. Fighting against any character that has projectile focused moves, was a challenge. Like trying to close that gap, close that distance felt so hard because the characters move pretty slow. And so there's a bit of that, but I would still say that it still feels more like a Guilty Gear Strive over a Street Fighter.
Andy, there's been a lot of talk recently about you getting into the fighting game community with your newfound love for parrying and responding to enemies.
Dodge rolls.
Do you have any comment?
Tim, it's interesting that you asked me that because, yes, I don't know where you've heard these leaks from. I don't know if Jason Schreier has been reporting on any of this, but everybody knows that the next fighting game I will try out will be the Riot game. All right, so and I will answer no further questions, Tim. But Project L will be the first fighting game that I play in a semi-serious manner since, like, I don't know, MVC 3, maybe Street Fighter 4. That was like the last time that I was into fighting games because I was really into the FGC and Evo and all that. But interesting question, Tim, and we'll see if we can answer that later on.
If I go to Evo this year, do you want to come with me?
Yeah, dude. I've always wanted to go to Evo.
Yeah, same here. Like I was sad when it got canceled in previous years, and so like I really want to make that happen. And also, I think like based on your gameplay with like Elden Ring and Souls and all that stuff, and like you are the Twitch shooter guy. Like I think you got like the reaction speed that you need for a fighting game.
I think
I think you can get into it.
So how long do you think it would take for a blessing for you to whip Andy into shape and really make him a force to reckon with at Evo?
At Evo, I mean, I'm not even ready for Evo. I don't know if we can like do Evo.
I think we're just gonna go watch.
Yeah, we're just gonna go watch.
Do you want us just to pay for a trip for you to go hang out?
Yeah.
I mean, I can enter. You know, I'm down to enter. In fact, if you pay for me to go, I'll enter.
Okay, fair enough. Deal.
I was gonna say the thing that scared me the most with fighting games was like when I'd be in the training battle room in MVC, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and it would be like, do this combo. And I was like, I don't have a good memory. I can't input all that shit like that. I am not that mechanically sound. There's no way I could do all that shit. So that's kind of what made me go, I'll never be good at this game. You know, I'll never be able to dunk a basketball. I'll never be good at this game.
I totally feel that because I used to feel the same way. And now especially after playing a lot of the Arc System Works games, I've kind of shaken that off where like Street Fighter, I still feel that. Like I am really bad at Street Fighter, and I'm excited for Street Fighter 6 to come out because I think that'll give me an opportunity to like play with a lot of people that might be coming in for the first time and like feel more comfortable. But for the times that I've played Street Fighter, I've always felt like I need to get into the lab and memorize combos and memorize how to actually pull this stuff off. I think Arc System Works, especially, they do a good job of making it so that pretty much all their fighters or all their characters have a translatable moveset where you're just doing down forward.
It's more like Smash.
It's
where
more
if you
like
know
Smash,
one character, you know all the characters.
You know all the
just,
characters
like,
to some
change
extent. And like really what it's about is like feeling out the characters. Like I'm not in the beta doesn't even have a practice mode, so I couldn't do that if I wanted to. But like after fighting in like 5 matches online in this game, I'm like, okay, cool. I understand what's going on. And I think part of that too is fighting game fundamentals. Like once you played a few fighting games, you to some extent you've kind of played them all. Like you kind of know how to transition from one game to another. And so jumping into this one, like I played enough Guilty Gear where I'm like, cool, this game is basically, I mean, I think you're spot on in terms of like being like, oh yeah, this game just looks like Guilty Gear, because it is, with some like tweaks and differences here and there, right? Different roster, different like world, different like mechanics here and there, but like it feels the same and it plays the same. And like, you know, there, if you've played Guilty Gear, you can hop into this game real easy and like kind of understand what you're doing. But like the thing that I would teach you, Andy, or the thing that I guess I would like support you for is like, hey, just figure out like how to pull off different moves, figure out how to move around in a stage, figure out like how to close gaps. Like if you can get the fundamentals down, then you'll be golden. You don't need to memorize shit after that.
Okay.
Well, everyone stay tuned for when the new Riot fighting game comes out, because we're about to see Andy become
25.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long time.
Exactly. Is the new shirt on sale yet? The Nick Scarpino karate shirt? If not, KindaFunny.com/store. Just keep refreshing it one day. It's going to be a good time for everyone. We can all get good at fighting games together in our new shirts. But until next time, Roger, thank you so much for joining us for this first review.
Thanks for having
Definitely won't be the last review. But let us know in the comments below what you thought about Roger and his performance specifically. All right? Don't go easy on him.
My
or do go
God,
easy on
Jesus.
him.
Well, just don't
We
call
like
him
him.
around, okay? If we
Yeah,
can just
don't
avoid
call him
that,
around.
that'd be great.
Jesus, this is my worst nightmare.
I know. I love you so much, Roger. Thank you so much for being the
Love y'all.
absolute greatest person. But until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.